would be delighted. Thanks a lot, everybody, for joining the INCON Learning today. We're gathering a wonderful community here, and I'm sure many of you are here because you already know Nikki, and she's a fantastic speaker, and she's a fabulous leader, and today she's going to talk to us about leadership. So thank you for your time, and we do welcome everybody to put their cameras on because we're like a little family in INCON. And I'm going to pass over to Nikki.
Great. Thank you so much, Angela. And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this INCON Learning session on the multiplier effects of leadership. And I think one of the great purposes of INCON, as Angela says, we're a lovely family of friends, but INCON Learning is fantastic. And really what we're leveraging is the power of collaboration and shared learning amongst all of us to ensure that individually we're successful, but in turn that our companies are successful and also our clients. So I love nothing more than talking about leadership. It doesn't mean that I am an expert leader. I always say that it is a learning journey to become a leader. So I don't want you to think that I am an expert leader, but I do love talking about leadership because there was a time when I was the most atrocious leader, and every year I learn a little bit more, and I learn from a lot of peers in our industry, a lot of my colleagues in INCON and IAPCO. Pat Delaney there is a very experienced man. Pat, we'll go to you later as well, but you know, it is all about gathering people in your industry who know more than you do, and I think that's what I love about INCON Learning. So let's open up our minds today and share together what we know. That does mean I don't want to be doing all the talking today. I think normally we would do the session in person. It's a little difficult to do it online, but it's better than not doing it. But I would love people to give me feedback and tell me about your stories as well. So I'm going to ask, oh, there, Angela is already sharing. So I love this quote, and you know, the function of leadership is to produce more leaders and not followers. And that's what today's session is all about. You know, the move, the more that we are surrounded by leaders, the easier our jobs are and the more successful we will be. So this session today is all about how we multiply the talent around us to become great leaders, but also to make our jobs a little less difficult. So I'm going to ask Angela to move on there because this book here, I'm going to recommend this book to everybody. It's by Liz Wiseman, and it's called Multipliers, and it explores the concept of two distinctive leadership styles. One is multipliers, and they are leaders who amplify the intelligence and capabilities of their team members, which in turn enables them to achieve their full potential. So they're the experts. They're the great people in the world who just sometimes this comes naturally, but I do believe everyone can learn to become a good leader. And the second one are the diminishers, and it is unintentional. Anyone who diminishes in leadership, it is completely unintentional until we become more aware and until we learn more about leadership styles. So today is all about just becoming more self-aware. I will make it a little bit funny because I'm going to be vulnerable today and tell you all about my accidental diminishing behavior, but unintentionally, you know, diminishers can stifle the abilities of their team through their actions and their behavior. And I really do recommend this book because it provides like really good insights and practical strategies to help all of us as leaders become multipliers, which in turn, I suppose, first fosters that culture of empowerment, innovative thinking, high performance within companies. And Liz Wiseman, she also has a podcast, she has a website, so you don't even have to read the book if you don't want to. You can actually go online there and follow her. But you know, her research highlights kind of the impact of multipliers on team productivity, engagement, and overall success, kind of making, I suppose it's a very compelling case study for leaders, all of us, to adopt this style of leadership. And we all know our industry is so complex. If you think of a conference, the amount of touch points you have with people from various different departments, from delegate registration to abstract and program management to project management to commercial to marketing to finance, we as leaders, all of us, no matter what job you're in a PCO or in any company in our industry, you have to lead so many people, so many suppliers, your clients, your internal teams. So I think it's really important that we all focus on how to become good leaders. I'm going to ask you, I'd actually love for you to even put into the chat if you think that you are a leader. Now, if I was in person, I'd be asking for a show of hands. You can also turn on your camera and put up your hand. And of the 46 people here online, I'd love to know who actually thinks that you're a leader. I'm putting my hand up. I can't see any of you now, but and is there anything in the chat here? There's just one in the chat. Yes, Angela said yes. You're all very quiet. Okay, so I won't pest you if you don't. There, Aoife says she's a leader. Great. Even if you think you're not a leader, put in a no. I just want to get a feel for what people think, because it's very interesting when I do this session. And I did this session for my own team, and I see some of them online. They're delighted to see you all, guys. We did it as our company day, and we made it our theme of our year. And the theme of our company day is building leaders today for tomorrow. And when I did ask my team, and when I've done this session before, what's really interesting is most people don't think that they are leaders. So what I want to say to you today is that you are a leader. Everybody is a leader. You do not have to have a title or a manager title to be a leader. You know, you're a leader of your own job. You take ownership, you take responsibility of your own job. Even if you are an intern, you are a leader. So I think that is the mindset change that we need to change within all of our companies, to understand that you are a leader, and by becoming a good leader and practicing at this very early stage in your career will really benefit you. So, and even if you are a parent, you're a leader. If you're a big brother or a big sister or a good friend, you are a leader. And sometimes we don't take these skills in our personal life enough into our working life. You know, we have an idea of what leadership like is, but we're all natural leaders. And it is just about being empathetic and being kind and understanding and empowering people and growing people. So if you move on to the next slide there, Angela. So this is an interesting thing. I love presentations that have visuals, because utilization is a very important thing when you're trying to become a good leader, and also utilizing people around you. And I will ask you to ask all of yourselves, ask this question: how deeply am I using the talent of others? Now, you don't have to be the boss to ask this question. Like, if you think about all your teams, do you know the skills of your colleagues? Like, what are they good at? What are they good at that you are not good at? And many of us in this industry, we are control freaks and we like to do everything ourselves. So what I'd like you to even think about today is, if you look at your to-do list, do you ever look at it and go, who else can do that for me? Do I really need to do all of this? And that is utilization. And it's also, if you are, no matter what stage you are in your career, I like to see this as we all love going to the gym. Sorry, at the moment I don't love going to the gym, but sometimes I do. But you know, we build muscle. We look at our physical strength. We're always focusing on our muscle and our legs and our stomach and our whatever. Do we think about our brains? If we don't look at utilization, our brains will remain small. But if we challenge ourselves, but we also challenge others, the brain always grows. We don't see it as a muscle. So if you do have team members, if I was on stage doing the session, I'd be up on stage with somebody with an elastic band, and we're pulling the elastic band and we're stretching and we're challenging. And that comfort zone, you don't want the elastic band to break, but you do want the elastic band to be stretched, so that person is working to the fullest of their ability. That is utilization of talent. And the more you do that and the less you do yourselves, the more you guide and the more you lead, the less stress you'll have in your life. And that's what we all want, because we do know, on the next slide, please, Angela, we are in the top 3 most stressful industries in the world. I think we're ahead of firemen now, believe it or not. So that is why it is so important that we access knowledge and talent around us. So another question for you: are you using the full potential of your team around you? Do you know what they're good at? We often know what somebody is a go-to person for, but do you know their hidden talents? I mean, by simply gathering your teams together and asking, what are you good at that I know you're good at? What are you good at that nobody knows about? I have changed people's jobs when I've asked this question. I've had somebody on my team who was an editor in the past. So now all of the stuff we're doing, all the comms that we send out, she edits and she loves doing it. It's not even part of her job, but she loves doing it. So it's really looking at, again, the full skill set of the entire company. And sometimes we don't this, we hold on to our jobs, we hold on to our KPIs. Do we think of who can help me achieve that? Particularly in sales, for example. I mean, I've had this conversation with my own team members. Don't just hold on to the knowledge within your team. Go out to every single person in the company, go, who can help me bring in that new lead? So it's really just creating an awareness and a change of mindset. It's not just me, it's not just my department, it's actually the entire company. And looking at everybody in your company as that skill, who has that skill. And moving on, Angela, thank you. You're reading my mind. So let's look at the two different styles of leadership. And I don't want anyone to be hard on themselves if you recognize some of these traits in yourself, because I'm going to go through this and then I'm going to go through what we call accidental diminishing behavior. And it is accidental and we're all learning and we all have L plates in our back. And it's very important that we acknowledge that. Do not be hard on yourself if you have any of these challenges. And I'm actually going to tell you some of mine, which I'll give you some funny stories as well. So, but in the end of the day, we all want to become multipliers. We do not want to become diminishers or accidental diminishers. And and this is the work that Liz Wiseman has done, and you'll read it all in her book or in her podcast. And quite simply, if you are a multiplier, you know that people are smart and they will figure it out for themselves. So it's not controlling people. It's actually going, just that the elastic band and the growing the brain. It's actually challenging people to actually get them to use their brain. And the two bars here in the middle, if you are a multiplier leader, you will actually get 95% of energy commitment from your team. If you are a diminisher, and this is based on research, you will actually only get 48% of that person's energy. That means they're only working 2.5 days a week, or even less. So just think about that. That means more falls to you. So if we all work on becoming multipliers, it will really support us in our efforts. So just some of the traits here. So a multiplier, most people want to work for a multiplier because they're energetic, they're kind, they're nice people, they optimize talent, but naturally they just attract people. Whereas if you've got the empire builder, now when I look at an empire builder, you all know who that is. That's somebody who is just egotistical, sometimes narcissistic, who just wants to build their own empire, be seen, take credit for other people. So they're the people who hoard and underutilize talent. And now we do not want to become that person. You have the liberator who will literally in meetings create space for the best of thinking. They will allow space for mistakes. They will allow space for questioning. Whereas the tyrant, as we call them, if you just go back when they're they kind of create stress that stops that thinking. I'm sure you've all, and sometimes we have clients like this as well, by the way, where you're in meetings and you're actually so nervous of the client or even a leader in your company that you actually can't think. There's actually too much stress in the environment. Going back to the multiplier then, so they are the ones who challenge. They might know the answer, but they won't tell you the answer. It's great. It's great to go into a meeting with the team where you might not have all the answers, but you have a lot of the answers. But questions are asked or discussions come up and you actually ask questions, only ask questions, so that you're allowing the other person to actually think themselves and come up with the answer. So you create that debate. They may not have all the answers, but you're creating a debate, and that's how people learn. And then at the end, you come in and you make the decision together, and they feel engaged in that decision. Whereas the diminisher comes in and goes, I know it all. No, sorry, this is what's happening. I don't care about any of your opinions. This is what we're doing. They decide, and then the debate later. And like when in those situations, you just shut down because there's no point, right? So that's when the brain remains small. Whereas if you're that encouraging person who allows for conversation and gives confidence to people, then you get that big brain developing and being challenged and growing much quicker. And then finally, just the multiplier, they instill ownership and accountability. And I think that is one of the most important things in our industry. If I have an account manager or project manager who owns the conference, who owns the relationship with the client, who's accountable for the KPIs of what they have to deliver on that project, I am so happy that person. They'll be promoted, they'll be paid more money. And that's what the multiplier does. They allow but they have to give them that accountability, not take away the power from them. Whereas the diminisher often micromanages, criticizes. Marta, I can see your face now. Lovely to see you. So this is, and I know this is quite challenging, and we've all had a diminisher boss, right? And we've all had a multiplier boss. And the next slide, I don't think we'll have time to go through all of this today, but I would encourage you, or maybe even think about it. You can flick that 6 times there, Angela. It's to think about, what did your diminisher do? What did they assume? And how much energy did they get out of you? And do think about this, because when you actually pause, and if we were in person, we'd all be discussing this. But, when you have had that diminisher boss, they control, they hoard the room, they don't allow for conversation, they bully, and, they assume you don't know what you're talking about. They're just getting you to do what they tell you that you want you to do. And that's not empowering people. And when that happens, you probably get maybe anything from 20 to 40% of somebody's energy, because there's fear. And once there's fear, it just doesn't work. Whereas if you have the multiplier, we all have had those wonderful multiplier bosses as well, who just go, I trust you. I know you can do it. Come back to me for support. I know this is a challenging situation. I'm here to support you. They assume you'll figure it out yourself. And guess what? You give 95%, because you don't have Big Brother looking over your shoulder. Okay, I'm going to move on. Unless anyone would like to come in here, because we could actually, would anyone like to share a situation, do not mention names, but a situation where you've had a multiplier or a diminisher and what impact it had on your career, on your growth? I would love to hear a story. I really would. And sometimes at this stage you go, oh no, I'm not going to speak. Go on, be brave. Go on, put up your hand. I know someone's going to turn off their camera. Turn on the camera and turn off their sound. No. What about Pat Delaney? Come on, my pal.
And Nikki, it's interesting what you say. I'm I couldn't agree with you. I have loads of examples of how diminish people. But one of the mantras that I keep in my mind all the time, to keep that leadership style, because I think what really struck me of what you said about leadership is that it's not confined to a role, particularly a senior, as considered senior in an organization. That we all have opportunities where to take the lead is very important. And I have a mantra in my mind which goes something like this, which says, it's much more important to be interested than interesting. And if I keep that in my head, then I know that I will always learn from other people, and therefore my brain will grow. And by God, does my brain need to grow? As you know, it's very small, and I've a long way to go. So I
You have
couldn't
a very
agree
big
more.
brain, Pat Delaney. What are you talking about?
Yeah, no, no, that's what the
It's thank you for repeating that, because I think sometimes like you are always the manager of yourself. You're the manager of your time. No one can do that. You are in charge of yourself and your own destiny and your own leadership and your own job. And when you lead in your job, no matter what it is, you're so right. You will actually do very well in life, and you will get that gratification and internal success. So now I'm going to move off that bit, because I'm going to go on to, which I think this is really practical, and it is how we become more self-aware. So we're going to do a little bit of self-reflection here now, and I'm going to tell you some of the challenges I've had in leadership and some of my things that I have to work on, because as I say, becoming a leader and becoming a good person in general, it is a lifelong journey. But these are all, what I love about Liz Wiseman is that she simplifies everything. There's about 9 points here that are accidental diminishing behavior, and it is accidental because we are all good people. We all are well intentioned. It just sometimes we need to become more aware of some of the stuff that we do, and I'll go through some of these. So if you move on there, Angela, the first one here is the idea guy. Now this is one of mine. Okay, so I am notorious for literally, my brain goes nonstop. I have a typical entrepreneurial brain that is always coming up with good ideas, which I think are good ideas. And my team would absolutely hate when I went on holidays, because I'm lying in the sunshine, drinking my margarita, and all these great ideas are coming into my head. And then I come home and I just go, bleh, spit out all my good ideas to my team after the holidays. And they're going, oh, for God's sake, I hate when she comes back from holidays. She's full of these ideas and we have to implement them, right? That is so accidental diminishing. My intention is really good. And if you look at this picture here, my intention is that I've got great ideas, but the experience of those people hearing all those great ideas is they're like rabbits in the headlight, and they're going, oh my God, where are we going? What are we doing first? Does she want us to do all of them? So what I have to be very careful of with my personality type is that, yeah, my ideas will spark creativity. That's my intention. That's what I really want. But don't feel like that you have to be the one leading off every roundtable discussion with your idea to get the team going, because that just closes people down. So, and don't feel like you have to send every idea out as it comes into your mind. I mean, so what I do now is I write down my ideas, because I do have that brain that is always generating new ideas, and I let time pass. And maybe the next day, of my 5 ideas, 4 are crap, but I might bring 1 to the table rather than just splurt them all out, because it is disconcerting for my team. And I will wait a few days, and I'm continuously trying to improve my own attitude. My intention is that I want to improve the company, but it can get overwhelming if there's too many opportunities, because they think, oh my God, I'm going to have to do all of this. So the important thing here is to don't risk diminishing your team by having them chase every idea of the day that I might create. So does anyone relate to this one? Yeah, I see a few nodding heads. And again, this is not criticism. This is self-reflection. It's awareness, so that we can improve how we become leaders. So let's see what the next one is. Oh, I love this one. Always on. So the picture says it all here. You know, it's a great, like, honestly, there are so many people in our industry who have this trait, because a lot of people in our industry are extroverted, they're energetic people, they're out there, but these people feel the need to be charged with 10,000 volts of energy every second of the day so that the team will have energy. That's not true. But this behavior may not always be creating the environment you want. There may be a good portion of people who feel you are sucking up all the oxygen in the room and not allowing space for them to actually speak, so they tune out. So I think the understanding here that there is a time and a place for different energy levels, and it is not always your job to be that energetic person. So don't risk diminishing your team by feeling you have to be the one spreading this contagious energy all day long. It's important to be silent and allow space for other people to literally develop and know that they have a voice in the room, because there's also a lot of people in our companies who are the opposite personalities to these, and they will not speak if somebody else is energetic and all the time on. So can anyone identify this one? Yeah, it's probably one of our most common traits. And again, what I do to help myself in this situation, because I am one of these people too. Actually, I have a lot of accidental diminishing behavior, but I work on it so hard, and I go into a meeting room and I try to not speak and let my team speak, or I ask questions rather than give the answers, I actually calm myself down. Because I am a naturally very energetic person. Pat Delane and myself, when we get together, we are double energy, aren't we, Pat? Like, so we always have to be careful. Like, people just don't talk around us. Because when you're energetic and you build your energy with someone else, you have to be equally careful. I remember, and I won't mention names, but I was on the board of IAPCO, and the president of IAPCO separated myself and one other person because when we were together, our energy was so high that we actually impacted the entire table. So I was at one side and he was at the other side, and then it changed. So this is it is, if you are that talkative, energetic person, it is important just to be mindful of the quieter people around the room and give them more space. Let's see the next one. The rescuer. I actually don't have this one. I'm delighted to tell you all. Anyway, this person believes that I must ensure that people are successful. But people are sometimes going to fail no matter what you do as a leader, and you can't stop it. So in the end, if all you have are people who are successful because you tell them what you want them to do, it won't last forever. So, what happens here is that they no longer take the risk. So don't diminish your team by having them rely on you so much for every decision. Again, great intentions. Your intentions are, I want to help you, I want to support you. But if you support them too much and give them all their answers, rescue them all the time, they won't actually know how to think for themselves. And they become dormant. And they go, oh, she'll figure me out. She'll sort it out for me anyway. Or he sorted out for me. So again, it's back to that stretching, the elastic band, challenging people, stretching them, not giving them the answers all the time, asking them to think for themselves. So, and I suppose the outcome is that people become dependent on you and they do stop thinking for themselves. So the solution, just ask the person to fix their own problem, give them the support, but let them empower them. The pace setter is the next one, I think. Yeah. Okay. So again, here, the intention is great. The person who believes they have to set a very high standard for quality and pace. They feel if they set that standard, people will follow. But don't try and do it alone. Some of us as leaders, again, that fast thinking brain, those entrepreneurs, they go full steam ahead. You're the owner of the company, you want people to follow you, but if you go too fast, you go out of sight, and that's what this picture is telling us. So you risk diminishing the team, and they become spectators rather than followers. So again, the intention here is to set a high standard for quality and pace. And one thing I'll say, this is not normally me, but after the pandemic, when we all had to rebuild our businesses, so I certainly had to rebuild my business, I knew what good was, but I didn't have good because I had a whole new team. So I had to slow myself so down, slow. But sometimes there were days where I was impatient because I wanted to get back to where we were, and people just didn't follow me. So I constantly had to slow myself down. So if I hadn't had that learning, I think from Liz Wiseman, I think I might have failed in rebuilding my business. Let's look at the next one. Okay, this one. This probably the best way to describe this one. Have you ever received an email that is not to you, but you're CC'd and you reply? Have you ever done that? Yeah? That's the rapid responder. It actually is none of your business to reply to that. Your intention is great. Yeah, I mean, the intention is to keep the organization moving fast, but the outcome may be that they move so fast that everyone else moves slowly. So again, wait the 24 hours, reflect, give the person the right to respond because it's not your email. But the person who believes their fast decisions will keep the company moving forward. That's really what you're thinking here. So it's unintentional, but just be careful not to be that person making 20 changes a day without properly communicating or planning the changes. So again, great intentions, let's move fast, let's support, but really what you're doing is you're creating a traffic jam. You're actually slowing down that person, because one, they might receive that email and go, oh, I wonder, is he actually going to reply for me? and it just creates a traffic jam there in the middle. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Oh, this is me. Okay, I brought this with me here today. Do you see this? This little fella hops up and down, and he's called the Hoptimist. So I had a client who gave me this, who said, you're not just an optimist, but you're a Hoptimist. You're so optimistic you actually hop. So I bring this fella sometimes to meetings, and I tell my team, if I'm being too optimistic, please press that. One of my team, Colin, we forgot it one day, so he jumped out of his chair and he started jumping up and down, going, you're being far too optimistic. Stop it. Stop right now. So again, allowing your team to have permission to talk to you about your accidental diminishing behavior is equally important. But again, the person who believes with the right attitude we can do it, that's fantastic. However, we can be too optimistic. You know, if you take this too far, the team can wonder if you really understand and appreciate how hard the task at hand is. So, you know, your intention is good. Come on, let's keep going, guys. But the experience is that you need to get into the trenches with them, feel their pain, understand their pain, but yet support them pushing that boulder up the hill. Does that make sense? Anyone got this one? No. Everyone's very quiet. Okay, let's go on to the next one since you're all so quiet. Okay, this one, oh my God, I look at this. I was taught by the nuns in a convent, and I got my homework back like this every day. So I learned this is not the way to be. So this is the Monica, if anyone is a Friends fan. And I really believe in the 80-20 rule. I think it's so important that we don't expect 100% all the time. And again, the intention of this great leader is to help people to be at their best and to produce outstanding work. But it can result in people feeling criticized and becoming disheartened and stop trying. So I think it's really, I suppose the way to overcome this is to just go 80-20 and, you know, don't criticize too much. Don't expect 100% perfection. Because they just become disheartened and they stop trying. And you know that feeling of Big Brother is watching. I mean, this just doesn't come in the form of what I'm showing here. It could be in the form of, I want you to CC me in all of your emails so I know that they're perfect. So your intention is good and you want to support that person and, you know, give them constructive criticism along the journey, but they feel Big Brother is watching and that there's no trust. So this is quite a common one in our industry again, because a lot of us we're in the organizing world, and when you're in the organizing world, you tend to be a control freak. Yeah, we like to control. We like to control excellence. Again, great intentions, but sometimes we do need to allow and leave space for error. The next one now, this is I think it's the protector, if I remember correctly. Yeah, the protector. This is a new one that Liz Wiseman came back up. This wasn't here 3 years ago, but again, the protector occurs when your efforts to shield the team from external pressures, but inadvertently, this results in you disempowering your team members. And this can happen when protectors become overly controlling, overly directive, or overly protective, which limits kind of the team's autonomy. It limits growth. It limits ability to take ownership of work. So again, the intention is great. You often see this in actually where there's a number of departments in a company. So it could be the project management department who are protecting their team against another department. And I think, again, the intention is to keep people safe from political forces. It also can happen sometimes with the leadership team, that a department is protecting their team from the leadership because the leadership wants something. So again, the intention, keep my team safe from political forces within the company, but the outcome is that people don't learn to fend for themselves. And then the final one is the strategist. This is very common with a lot of leaders, and I actually, this is one of mine as well. I'll be honest. You know, people who own companies are often quite visionary. They're big thinkers. They lay out this compelling picture of the future. The future is going to be brilliant, and we're going to do this, and we're going to take over the world. And sometimes even praise themselves. But they might be providing too prescriptive a vision to their team and not leaving enough space for others to think for themselves, not to become involved in the strategy. So, you know, and again, a lot of leaders, they think a lot. They think outside work. It's their baby, it's their job, it's their company. And you have a very clear vision of where you want to go. But when you sit down with your management team, you have to shut up. You have to not talk about it. You have to maybe talk about half of it, but leave the other half to be developed with the team so that they're engaged and involved in the strategy. And you're also getting their perspective, not just your perspective. It's so important to get this wider perspective of and utilize all the talent on your team. And it is very easy to sit down and write your strategy and write what your direction is. But if you don't, and if you tell, you won't get engagement from the team. But if you involve them and you make them part of it, and every single department lead feeds into that strategy, and they're determining what they want to do. So we just had a strategy day for the last 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, and yes, the targets are written for the next 3 years, but every team lead has to put in the initiatives for the next year, for the next quarter, that's going to feed into the strategy and delivering on the strategy. I'm certainly not doing it. Then we'll come together again and we'll maximize and utilize the talent of the business to actually make sure the initiatives that we're doing for the year and for the quarter are the right ones. So next, I think that's kind of the two styles of leadership, but the accidental diminishing behavior is so valuable. And what I would encourage, if you just go back up one there, Angela, sorry, is to actually sit down with your teams. First of all, do this personally yourself and go. And we'll send on, I think we will send on the presentation as well, Angela. Pick out which of the accidental diminishing traits, just like I've told you mine. And maybe we have a bit of all of them. But to really become aware of who you are with these 9 accidental diminishing traits and figure out what are you going to do with it. I would also recommend that you sit down with your teams and say, do I have any of these? You know, sometimes we're not aware, and it's a really brave thing to do. It's a very beneficial thing to do, is to actually ask your team members, which of these do I have? Let's do a session together. Like, do this session with your team. And you will get all of the words around this on that website if you want to explain it a little bit more, and then find out solutions for you personally, but also what are the workarounds for your team to make sure that all of you together are not you're not becoming accidental diminishers. I promise you, if you do this, it will change your life. It'll change your teams. It'll turn you all into very self-aware, good leaders. But it's something, do not be hard on yourself. This is a lifelong journey that we all have to go on to become good leaders. And the other thing I would just love you to do is this last one here, is to actually talk to your teams about what are they good at that you don't know they're good at. That simple question. Do you know that picture right? All the brains of the company? There's stuff that you probably only know about 30% of what your teams are good at. Try and unleash the talent of everyone in your company. Even on Post-its, say, what are you good at that nobody knows you're good at? What are you good at that is not relevant to your job, but that you could be good at in other departments? And you will be amazed at how interesting this is for everyone. You're liberating talent, you're developing talent, and you might even restructure your teams or within your company if you do this exercise as a group. And my final word to you all is that you are all leaders, no matter what your job is. You don't have to have a title to be a leader. And I wish you all the best of luck in becoming even better leaders tomorrow. And I'm very happy to open the floor to any questions that you might have, or any other discussions that you think we could have within the last 15 minutes.
Super. Thank you so much, Nikki. That was a super presentation and a lot of food for thought. It was quite scary, the amount of those diminishing traits I have. I'm sure a lot of people have the same. And does anybody have anything you'd like to raise? You can put it in chat, you can raise your hand, you can simply speak, or any observations. Still have some people joining us. Wow, you've shocked everybody into silence, Nikki.
No. It's interesting.
I have a question, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I just wrote it. I didn't want to interrupt you, but it's in the chat.
I
Ah,
saw.
okay.
I'm just reading it here.
Have the chat. Okay. The purpose of keeping someone in CC isn't about control, but ensuring transparency and accountability. It allows team members to track the progress, confirm that tasks are handled appropriately. Additionally, it helps highlight any lack of response or action, ensuring that work continues smoothly.
Yeah, and that is all true. But
Yeah.
the person that you might be saying to, I need you to CC me on everything, it may be a case that that person would feel she doesn't trust me. I don't believe you need to CC everybody on everything. I think it clogs up emails. It's going to add more work to your workload. I don't know that maybe there's a particular situation you're talking about here, and maybe if somebody is at the early stage of learning a new job, yes, absolutely. But there comes a time where that person could feel like the big brother is effect, which is somebody's watching my work all the time. So sometimes it is the balance of letting go and let somebody lead on their own, that you trust them and they're accountable, is really important.
I have a question, Nikki. What about if you have a leader who you feel has a lot of these diminishing characteristics and you need to inform them? I mean, aside from passing on this presentation and the book, have you any strategies?
You know that often I do the session in person, and we often get people who are very upset about this. It conjures up an emotional thought of somebody who's had a very bad experience with a leader or any manager, and it's a tricky one because it depends on the personality. But my advice would be to be brave, to literally write down, be very clear about how somebody has made you feel, but give an example so that that person you're talking to actually understands what that is about. So, but giving an example is the most important thing, but giving a few examples, because it's not just one, it's always over time, and setting boundaries. If you set boundaries, and I don't think anyone should be afraid of boundaries. We all deserve to be treated with respect. If there's a lack of trust from a manager to someone on their team, it's also important that that person hears the other perspective. So if somebody is diminishing, there's always a reason for it as well. So it's a two-way thing. So you can actually bring up your case with the person who's diminishing you, but you also have to understand there might be a reason for that. So to listen to that as well, and then to come to resolution. I think dissolution is very important in a relationship between two people who are working together, but it's very important that you bring it to resolution, that it doesn't. Do you know what I mean by that, Angela? Like, I mean, we often have situations within our companies, and we're afraid to say stuff. It's so important to speak your mind and to not fester and get out of your head and say what the issue is, but always say it respectfully, but bring it to resolution. Find the solution, and don't leave that table until the solution has been found. It's very hard. That takes a lot of confidence, and it takes a lot of bravery to do it.
Yeah. Thanks, Nikki. There was a comment by Marwa. I believe all leaders have to have emotional intelligence, as if they have this trait, they will own the hearts of their subordinates. They will invest in their work, and even with no influence from their leader.
Exactly.
So that's a very good point. Yeah.
And that's when you get the 95%. And it is a balance. It's supporting, it's being empathetic, it's providing support without control. But But you know, you're so right. And then, but then sometimes difficult conversations have to happen as well. But EQ is so important. And also CQ. I don't know if anyone knows about CQ. That's cultural intelligence. You know, when you're working in different countries, like we all are, it's so, like if you're working in Japan, for example, you're so aware of not just your emotional intelligence, but you're also your cultural intelligence, being respectful of other people's way of working and personality types. Any more questions?
No more questions from anybody or comments on this one?
Well, I've one final thing to say is that this is practice. There's no one great leader in the world. We all are human. We make mistakes. We say the wrong things. Words can hurt. Let's be respectful with our words, and let's be patient and kind and loving in leadership. Compassionate leadership is just so important. Being a strong leader, but being a compassionate leader.
Thanks so much,
everyone.
Thanks so much. Thank you all for joining us.